Callahan's being our speaker. And he will be here talking, giving you some information about Callahan's and its history and anything else he wants to. Mike writes for the Country Line magazine on a monthly basis, has a column, and he'll tell you a little more about everything. I'll turn it over to Mike.
Well, thank y'all for coming and welcome to our store. Glad you could make it. This is more than I thought we would have. And we have agreed to do this on a monthly basis. Only when it cools down, we're going to move out in that warehouse and get more chairs. It's lovely out there in the fall, you know, and we'll get out of here. We moved all the saddles and everything out to accommodate these. We had a guinea pig show here about 3 weeks ago. Y'all are better looking than they were. Obviously, we're doing this because, I'm not going to lie to you, this helps our business to have all these people come in our doors and see the things that we have to sell. Callahan's, I'll give you a little history because I was asked a while ago about that. Callahan's we have been on this site since right after World War II. There were some fellas came back from the war and wanted to start a cattle auction barn, and that's what they did. 4 people. They started. It was next door over there in that building. You can still see in that building the ring on the floor where the auction ring was, where the cattle would run through. And people, even today, somebody told me, said, when I was a kid, I used to come in and watch them auction cattle. Back there used to be cattle pens. They were creosote posts, you know, and fences, pens, and they were full of cattle. When I was a kid, we'd run up and down the catwalk and look down at the cattle, and the guys running the cattle in, taking them next door and auctioning them off, you know, just a regular auction. Wasn't Sotheby's, but we auctioned cattle. We'd run them out and load them in the trucks, and people would take them home. That's how we got started. And then that auction happened every Monday. And so as we got more and more cattle in here, we had to figure out a way to feed those cattle. So we built a feed mill over there. And that old feed mill, some of y'all, if you're native Austinites or you spent time here, you remember that old feed mill, that old spire sticking up in the air, the elevator leg. It was a landmark out here. We tore it down about 3 years ago. We had some big coons coming out of there, too. But, I think they had lived there since the 40s. But anyway, so we had to make feed for these animals that were here. But there was an abundance of feed there. We didn't. That meal would make a whole lot more feed. So we said, why don't we sell some feed? So we started selling feed at the wholesale level under the name Capital Feed to mom and pop stores out in the country. And we hauled it out to farms and ranches, but we didn't have any retail trade. And so there was a man in Austin, K-Vet. This was, you know, his name was Arlie Duff. So he said, why don't you advertise chickens? Everybody likes chickens, especially baby chicks. So we owe part of our success to the lowly chick, because we got on the radio and people started coming out to buy chickens. And when they bought the chickens, they had to have the feeders. They had to have the feed, obviously, that we sold. So our retail business started to blossom, and I feel like that's kind of where it got started. And then after a while, selling that feed in the old Capital Feed building over there, people said, well, I need a pen for these chickens. So we started selling wire, and then for cattle and horses, you know, barbed wire and fencing materials, all that kind of stuff. And it naturally grew. And in 1970, we built Capital Implement Building, which is that old abandoned building on the other side over there. That was a hardware store. So we sold farm and ranch hardware and legitimate hardware, you know, conduit, all the things, electrical cords, all the things that go with a hardware store. It was a neighborhood hardware store here for years and years. Then we started selling tractors, John Deere tractors, those great big tractors, and we sold those. We had a building back in the back. We sold those until the early 80s when all that, the farm economy went bust. You couldn't make any money selling those things, so we got out of that business. But in 1978, we built this building that we're in right now. We took the feed store, all the feed products, and we took the hardware store, and that was Urban Cowboy. You know, all that stuff was coming in right then. And my cousin, who I'll say he's not here, he's in Canada hunting, he's a quintessential redneck. He hated going down there and buying his jeans under the bridge at Army-Navy surplus, so he said, we're going to start selling jeans at our store. We started off selling jeans and work boots and things of that nature. For the work, go ahead. For the working man. So that's how we got started. So we put it all under one roof, and that's what we have today. So we're still here. We've been very fortunate to be out here at the crossroads of 183 and 71. We've had a good business here all these years. If the highway doesn't kill us, we'll stay here many more years, I hope. But that's, in a nutshell, that's the history of Callahan's.
Where did the name come from?
The name? Callahan's?
Yeah.
It's the Callahan family. My uncle Earl Callahan.
Okay.
See, it was his name, and
Sure.
yeah, and my cousins, you'll see them running around here. They're all Callahans. They're married, and
So it's still a family-owned business?
it's a family-owned business to this day. Yeah. My uncle had 8 children. He and his wife. They had no TV or heat apparently in their house in the country, and they were all. And there's only 3 or 4 that were active in the business. So, and 2 are dead. So there's 2 brothers basically that I work for. Murray Callahan, who I think is the patriarch of the business. He walks around here in his blue and his cap. You see him probably sitting by the front door when you come in the door. He's fixing to celebrate his 80th birthday. But they all started out of Rockney down there. They were born and raised in Rockney, in the country. And so my mother was one of them, and she couldn't wait to get out of the country. When I came to Austin, I said, I want to live in the country with a tin roof. And she said, you're nuts. I fought my whole life to get out of down there. Why would anybody want to go live in there? But things have changed. People like that kind of style now. And it's a pleasure to see all of y'all here, because ironically, people say to me, with this recession / depression going on, has that affected your business? Well, it's affected our business in a positive way, because we've got so many more people now that want to go back to the country and want to go back and raise chickens and want to have something that they know what's going on their table and in their mouth. They want to be able to feed these animals themselves and know that they're not going to poison themselves, and to know where their food comes from. And also, if there is a major meltdown, then at least you have a chicken to eat. I saw this same thing in Y2K. Our business took off, just boom. You know, we sold cast iron stoves, we sold these pot-belly stoves, stock tanks. People wanted big sacks of wheat and oats to, I guess, to live when all the power went off. Then the day after, January the 2nd, when the world didn't come to an end, they wanted to all bring it back. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't take this back. I'll go out of business. So, you know, we've seen this before. And but this drought is really what's killing the basis of our business. When you look at this part of the store in here, I tell people all the time, this is a big part of our business, but it's not really what we do. What we do is in that warehouse back there. We have a feed mill down in Cedar Creek. We manufacture feed, and we sell it to mom and pop stores, to stores in the country, and to ranches, farmers and ranchers, and to this store. We bring it up here and sell it to people coming in the front door like yourself wanting to buy a bag of hen scratch or buy a bag of food. So what we really do is feed. And this drought, you know, in that respect has hurt that part of the business, but I'm really